Welcome back, everybody. We're here with offensive coordinator and offensive line coach Mike Bloesch ahead of Cal's home game at California Memorial Stadium against NC State on Saturday. We're going to go to Jim McGill from Bear Insider for the first question.
Hey, Mike, just wanted to ask a couple of questions about play calling on a couple of the plays. After looking at the film, in hindsight, would you have gone for one after that first touchdown or gone for a more conventional 2-point attempt or still went with a trick play on that?
After the first touchdown?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe Coach Wilcox had spoke on that. That was kind of a decision that he had made pregame of what he wanted to do in that situation. We actually had our field goal team on the field there. That was a special teams play.
Okay. And on the last field goal attempt, rather than putting the game in the hands of a very inconsistent kicker with 2 minutes left against a team who had a kicker with a huge leg, in hindsight, might you have opted to be a little bit more aggressive trying to put the ball in the end zone or just stuck with a field goal attempt?
Yeah, I think obviously when you go back and look at it, that's something that, in hindsight, obviously it didn't work out the way we anticipated. We thought we had a good run with multiple options there. We could keep the clock running. We felt like we were in a good spot from a field position standpoint. And we also, had not done a great job of protecting the quarterback up to that point. So definitely did not want to go backwards there in that situation, but definitely probably could have went with something different.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Any more questions for Coach Bloesch? We'll go to Matt Moreno from Rivals.
I know you don't want to give everything away, but getting Chandler into the game, is there a certain thought process that kind of goes into when and how he'll be effective when you guys are able to get him on the field?
Yeah, I mean, like I've said previously, something that we talk about every week is how can we get our best players on the field, and with where we're at with injuries at a lot of different positions, trying to create some different looks for the defense is something that we're trying to do to move the football. And so we're exploring all options and exploring all personnel week to week to give ourselves the best chance to win.
We'll go to Jake Curtis from Cal Bears on that side.
Yeah, Mike, how would you assess how the offensive line has played, particularly in terms of pass protection?
Yeah, not great. Not great. I mean, obviously the pass protection has been an issue. We want to be aggressive and push the ball down the field. We had some really big opportunities that we left on the field with some 7-man protections. And so that was definitely disheartening to go back and watch that on tape and see guys running wide open down the field on some of those plays. So we got to continue to do a good job of coaching those guys, getting them better, but then also putting them in situations that are maybe a little bit more conducive on those shot plays.
We'll go to Steve Croner from the SF Chronicle.
Yeah, Mike, Jack Endry was a good player last season. It's not as if it's a huge surprise that he's had as much success this season as he's had, but perhaps a little bit of a surprise. What has made him so effective, certainly in the past game?
Yeah, just consistency and experience. I think that's the thing that sometimes I forget about is when I look at our roster, the amount of youth that we have on our roster, with Jaden being out, Jet's a young guy with, Nick Morrow's a freshman at left tackle. Mikey Matthews is a young guy. Isaiah Hunter's a freshman, so we have a lot of youth on our offense, and to have a guy that has played a ton of snaps I think he played more snaps than anybody in the country last year at the tight end position. Obviously has been able to split some time with Corey Dyches this year, but when Corey being out last week was able to step up and really carry the torch for us, which I was extremely proud of and definitely not surprised about.
We'll go back to Jim McGill.
Yeah, Mike, last season was a big turnaround for the offensive line. There'd been a real lack of success the prior few seasons before you came in. Fernando got hit a decent amount last year, but not sacked. And the running game was solid with Jaden being able to be one of the leaders in the nation in running. What's different this year? I know there's a little bit new personnel, but he's getting sacked at one of the highest levels in the country. Red zone, tough time putting it in the end zone. You have the opportunity. What's the difference? And do you feel like you have enough time to work with the line like you did last year when that was your main responsibility?
Yeah, I think, obviously the consistency has not been there. And I think when you turn on the tape, you watch the game with a fine tooth comb like I do and like we do as a staff, and you see the ability to have explosive runs, the ability to push the ball down the field, and whether it's one guy here and one guy there, that's where we're inefficient. That's where we're not getting it done right now. And I think, is coming in new as the offensive line coach last year, we did have some older guys. We had some really good leadership with Matthew Cindric and Brian Driscoll, Barrett Miller, guys that were seniors, pretty senior heavy. And, I think obviously some of our youth and then some of the new guys that are playing, really, this is my first year with those guys, with Will McDonald and Rush Reimer being transfers. So, I say all that to say, obviously, has not been up to my standard, has not been up to our standard, and we've got to continue to work and grow and play better moving forward for us to go on the run that we want to go on here the next 6 games.
Thanks.
We'll go to Matt Moreno from Rivals.
I know the coach answer is that you can only coach who's on the field and you next man up mentality, but how much has not having Keon and Tobias impacted what you want to do this season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, those guys were penciled in as starters for us going into the season for a reason. They really had a good camp. I've been really proud of the guys that have stepped up in their absence. But yeah, I mean, there's really, all I can do is control what I can control, and that's out of my hands. So we still have some really good players across the board, and we got to figure out ways to give them the best opportunity to move the ball and score points ultimately.
And it feels like, after some of the poor offensive performances, we kind of come back to the same themes. But are you seeing things in practice that give you promise or a feeling like, hey, this thing can turn at any moment?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, when you watch the tape and really look at it, it's one false step here. It's the depth of a route, things that are all coachable, correctable. And I think, again, when I think back about, some of the youth that we have at certain positions, those guys understanding that every detail matters when it comes to executing a play, and it takes 11 guys. We can't have 10 guys doing exactly what they're coached to do and one guy not getting it done. So I think it's just the mental focus, the strain throughout a drive, throughout a series, throughout a game, whether it's 60 plays, 80 plays, doesn't matter. Just what that takes to be able to execute at a high level. And I think we all see plays every week that, like, okay, that's what it's supposed to look like. And obviously we need more of those, and we got to get that done ASAP.
As Coach Wilcox says, but this time last year, Fernando was kind of just really stepping in as a starter for the first time, still a very young guy. What have you thought of his play through 6 games, and what more do you want to see from him, the second half of the season?
Yeah, I think he's obviously done a great job of leading us. I love the way he plays the game. I love how competitive he is. Definitely has grown from last year. Obviously, again, when you talk about quarterback play, he's started, I guess, about 12 games now. So things are starting to slow down for him. But still a ton of growth. And I think that's the thing that I love about him, is he shows up every day, like, hungry to get better, hungry to do extra, hungry to watch the tape. And I'm expecting him to just get better with every game this season.